means family.
When life gets you down, you know what you gotta do?
I don't want to know what you gotta do.
Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing craze.
It's time for Disney Plus Us. I am your host, Jay.
I'm Andrea.
And this is a show dedicated to Disney Plus, the new streaming service. But we are so darn excited about Disney Plus, we decided to watch every single animated Disney movie in chronological order as best we can. And I'm not very good with the words right now. We'll just see where we go.
All right. That's all right. So, Jay,
Yeah.
we've got an interesting one to watch today.
This is this band, first off, is this band from Disney history?
No. Although usually it's not really something people want to watch.
It's true.
It
Okay.
was kind of, Disney put this particular film out for a purpose. It served that purpose, and so it got tossed into the vault, never to be retrieved again.
Not likely it will be on the Disney Plus service.
Probably not.
We're going to stop beating around this bush. We're going to tell you exactly what this movie it is, and it is called Victory Through Air Power. 1943.
Yes, indeed. Victory Through Air Power. So if you've been joining us this whole way, you'll remember that 3 lavishly animated films, Pinocchio, Fantasia, and Bambi, have all flopped at the box office.
Sad. Very sad.
Dumbo was kind of a mild success, but Disney's not having very good luck. In the midst of all this, World War II breaks out.
Yep.
And well, before that, Disney, all his animators went on strike, and he had to make some concessions and
Some got drafted.
and raise all their salaries. And then once the war broke out, a bunch of his people got drafted.
Yeah.
So Disney is short-staffed, he's out of money, and he keeps making these movies that are flopping.
Oh, man.
So last time, he was approached by the government asking him to make a film that was friendly to South America.
That's right.
Saludos, amigos.
Which was a blast.
Which
we watched
was a blast. It was a huge success. People loved it. So Disney has decided to dip his toe back into getting involved in maybe things that aren't necessarily in his lane, let's say.
Yes, it's the whole country is concerning themselves with World War II. So is Disney.
So he reads this book. This book is called Victory Through Air Power. It's by a Russian author, Alexander Seversky. Read you his whole long Russian name, but I'm not going to.
That was impressive what you said.
Oh, thank you. He's from Russia. He was a pilot in World War I and has this whole naval background. We can go through all of this after we watch the movie.
Okay.
But ended up making his way to the United States. Well, first lost a leg in World War I, so he's got an amputated leg. He's got a prosthesis on there.
Really?
Ended
That's
up
wild.
moving to the United States, started an airplane company. They were doing really well, and then for some reason or other, the board ousted him. And so this guy knows a ton about airplanes. He's been ousted from his airplane making company, and he's bored.
Yeah.
So he writes this book on how to achieve victory using air power.
This dude sounds like a go-getter. I know he's a Russian, but wow.
Oh, yeah. So Disney picks this up and says, by George, I think this is how we win the war. Let's use all of my power and influence to make this happen, get it out in movie theaters, and maybe get it in front of our leaders so we can win the war.
Wow.
In his head was kind of the thought process behind this film.
Okay, I'm in.
So, and I can spoil it, and
No.
I'm not going to tell you what the movie's about, but I'll say that
Who won the war? Wait, I don't want to know.
I won't tell you.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll find out as we keep watching these movies.
Yes.
But this movie ends up getting in front of FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt,
That's right.
and Winston Churchill.
Oh.
And both of them saw it and said, yeah, you're right. And they ended up focusing more on air power
So it kind of worked.
because of this film.
So let me, I know FDR saw this. I know Churchill saw this. Andrea, my dear wife, I need to know, have you ever seen this movie?
Never. I'd never even heard of this movie until we were getting ready to do this.
I know. I'm kind of excited. It's a Disney movie that I've never seen.
Ever. You don't even have a conception of what it could be going in.
This is prime time for, I don't know, I think fun. I think we can, I think Saludos Amigos, I hadn't seen that either. So, but this feels important and it feels timely. Who knows what it's going to end up being? But all that to say, I think we should do some role playing here. Let's put a scene together.
Okay.
That we think is in the movie Victory Through Air Power.
Piece of cake, right?
How hard could it be?
Yeah.
You know, the whole point of the movie is in the title, right?
Right. I mean, we can surmise what's in this movie based on the title. So
Pretty easy.
let's say we're military folk and we're trying to figure out how to win the war.
Hey, I'll be a captain.
Okay, I'll be a sergeant.
All right. Attention. Okay. You maggots.
Sir, yes, sir.
We have a problem on our hands.
Sir, what's the problem, sir?
One, the mess hall is out of my sweet potatoes, and I love my sweet potatoes.
Sorry, sir, that was me. Chubbers, you scrub in the latrine with your toothbrush. Go. Damn it, Private Chubbers.
Enough yakking. The real problem is we can't win this war.
What, sir?
We haven't got victory through these tanks we've been having over here in the corner.
No, sir. There appears to be an ocean between us and the Nazis. It's very hard to get tanks over there,
I
sir.
know. We haven't achieved victory on horseback.
No, sir. Same problem. Horses can't swim that far, sir.
And all these boats, I can't get victory either, as some of those targets are on land.
That is a problem, sir.
I just don't know how to get victory. How are we going to win this war?
Well, sir.
Yes?
You see that hangar over there?
Yeah?
That big metal building?
Uh-huh.
Turns out there's some contraptions in there
Keep going.
called airplanes.
Airplanes. Go on, Private.
Airplanes.
Or Sergeant.
Yeah, you just demoted me, sir.
Sorry. That was...
Anyway,
yeah.
there are airplanes in that hangar, sir, and we've got a couple fellas here who'd like to try them out. In fact, they might have some experience flying those airplanes.
So,
what if we strap some guns on those airplanes and maybe some bombs and just flew over the Nazis?
And maybe the victory is through the air.
Victory through air power.
Okay, let me summarize this, Sergeant. Mm-hmm. We get in these
sir, yes, sir.
air choppers or whatever you call them. Airplanes. We put on some flash, some guns and bombs, and you're telling me we fly over the enemies.
I think it might work.
Huh. I'm going to call the president.
Do it, sir.
And scene. I think we nailed it.
Poor Chubbers.
Oh, he had to scrub the latrines.
I like sweet potatoes too.
I know. Anyway, that was fun. I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, we still don't know anything about this movie.
We really don't.
Apart from the fact that it was propaganda.
Yeah. Straight up, like no one's
Straight
hiding
up, Disney's
the fact.
trying to push his plan for winning the war.
You know what? I think we should watch the trailer.
Oh.
And see.
There's a trailer for this?
Believe it or not.
Okay.
Here it goes.
How long will the war last?
Question mark flying towards the
Will our
camera.
own cities and homes be bombed? Which is our number one target? Germany or Japan?
Uh-oh.
What of the supply problem? Can we overcome the submarine menace?
Oh, man. Look at
Can
all
air
those.
power bomb Germany into submission? Can we build planes that can bomb Japan direct from continental America?
So many questions.
I don't know. That's a long way to fly.
Are we making full use of American air power? Should we have a separate and independent air force?
Oh.
Can air power bring us victory in the shortest possible time with the greatest saving in human life? Victory through air power. The thrilling graphic visualization of the book, frankly and boldly brought to the screen with no punches pulled.
No
Book of the
punches
Month Club
pulled.
Special edition.
Is this rated R?
Condensed in Reader's Digest.
Looks like it.
Syndicated in hundreds of leading newspapers throughout the world. Millions have read and discussed this book. No one can afford henceforth to believe he is thinking about the war if he has not read carefully and opened his mind fully to what Major Seversky has to say.
Oh,
The war hasn't
Seversky.
produced as powerful a picture as Walt Disney's Victory Through Air Power, nor a more frightening document. A breathless story developed with imaginative sweep and power. A blast of gusty prophetic criticism, the kind of criticism heard all too seldom in a country at war. This is a powerful motion picture which everyone interested in victory must see.
I'm interested
Wow.
in
One of
victory.
the most stupendous things ever put on the screen.
Man.
Only the medium of Walt Disney could bring to the screen this vivid and dramatic forecast of events to come. Only in a democracy could this frank and critical motion picture be brought to the audience of this theater. Every American man, woman, and child must see
Victory through air power. Wow.
Let's actually talk a little bit about the trailer we just watched.
Yeah.
This was a lot. First off, it was a long one, 2 minutes. And there was some things that I felt were very un-Disney completely. Like there's no Donald, there's no laughing, there's no
Right.
dopey.
Do not go into this thinking you're going to see a cutesy story.
No.
In
Yeah.
fact, we may not get a story. It may just be war strategy.
So what are your feelings after watching that?
I'm interested to see it. They're talking about being able to reach Japan from the continental United States.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thought went to when we dropped a bomb on Japan
Oh.
at the end of the war. And did the information in this movie contribute to that?
Oh.
So that's where my thought went.
Really? I went into this thinking, first off, I'm just a citizen. Why do I care about this? But after the bombardment, sorry, pardon the pun, of questions, like now I'm completely wondering this.
Yeah,
You know, like,
I'm
oh,
genuinely
yeah.
interested in seeing this, but also my wheels are turning because I know what comes next.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that the United States completely, I mean, this is where we get Rosie the Riveter and all that. We
Yeah.
completely ramp up our war production, especially of airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
And we just go to town and make tons and tons of them. We develop an Air Force, which apparently we didn't have an Air Force before.
Well, and they're putting pilots in there that had no business, no training. Like you're from Nebraska. That qualifies you from flying B-2 bomber.
Right.
Here you
Hop
go.
in here. How hard could it be?
Yeah.
So apparently after seeing this,
We don't want to jump to conclusions.
Yeah.
We don't want to. Causation does not equal correlation or whatever.
reverse that.
Yeah. Vice versa.
Yeah. But I mean, it's definitely going to be a strong point of view and a strong argument for something, which, I mean, it could be really interesting and it could maybe be correct, but I'm going to keep in mind the whole time I'm watching it that this is definitely they're trying to convince you of something.
The only question I have left is, should I go hunt down my Donald Duck stuffed animal, put on my mouse ears, and watch this movie?
I don't even know if we'll have any of them show up in this movie.
I know.
Should we watch it?
Hey, let's jump in.
Okay.
It's time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's time for the movie.
Which remote do we use again?
I'll get the popcorn.
There could be spoilers.
We'll be back in 4, 3, 2, 1.
Dun, da, da, dun, da, da. Wow.
America.
Wow.
We just watched Victory Through Air Power.
It was very impressive, to say the least. Let's start off, because this was kind of a clean slate for both of us.
Yeah, we had no idea what we were getting into.
So the first 20 minutes, I actually loved it. There was jokes in it. It was Disney explaining aviation.
Yeah. Here's the history of aviation.
The Wright brothers were hilarious. The advancements of aviation were impressive.
In a very short period of time.
Oh, yeah.
Very impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Because it started out like the Wright brothers in 1903, 1904. When was that? And then by World War I, which was like less than 10 years later is when it started.
Leaps and bounds, and people were
using these flying machines to first scout out, and then they started shooting like handguns at each other from their planes.
Or wait, no, it started with bricks. Remember that?
Oh yeah,
they
they were like
bricks
throwing
at
bricks
each other. That was hilarious.
And then they started shooting at each other with handguns, and then they started mounting guns on the planes.
And then timing it with the propellers and all that stuff.
Anyway, the first part, history of flight, fascinating.
And funny.
Yeah.
Enjoyable even.
And then we hit a wall.
We went straight to this Russian guy.
Who wrote the book, Victory Through Air Power.
Walt and him must be BFFs.
But we must have been very tired because
we literally fell asleep, and we are recording the next day.
So we had to start from the point the last thing we remembered.
Yeah.
And moving forward. So fair warning to you all, it kind of reminded me of those movies they play in class. They turn off the lights and it's kind of this drony narrator and telling you lots and lots of facts. And if you're not that interested, then you kind of fall asleep.
It is so true.
Yeah.
The second part was very much strategies. Here's where the Germans are. Here's where the Japanese are. Here's what they can be. Here's what we can be. Here's why it's important for us to use the air power.
Which, can I summarize that? Because watching it this second day, watching the second half that's all on strategy, I found it fascinating.
Oh.
I can't believe I fell asleep the other day.
Really?
Yeah. Okay, so let me summarize. When you're in war, you try to set up your bases as close as possible while still being safe. So you have land armies pushing in on your enemy, in this case, Hitler and his whole occupied territory, and then over in Japan. You set up your bases, you've got land armies, and then you've got your airplanes who have a maximum range that they can fly, turn around, and get safely back. So ideally, you want your airplanes to be able to reach where they're building their tanks and their bombs and where their supplies are coming from.
Yeah.
So if your airplanes are outside that range, you need to get them close enough to striking distance where they're effective, is the whole argument. And if you can get them to strike the center of your enemy's industry, then you basically cripple your enemy and you win the war.
You get an advantage, which they did a number of jobs. They showed what it would be like for an airplane to shoot or drop a big bomb in the dam of Germany's dam. And
They're
then,
like hydroelectric dam that's powering the whole city.
and then it shows like all the lights turning off and the little like Nazi symbol going down, the illuminated Nazi symbol
And
going.
we're like, woo! as we're watching that.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of talk about supply lines and where you put your bases, and it's more problematic over near Japan because you've got water there and you've got enemy occupied territory that spans. Anyway, that kind of put Jay to sleep. Put me to sleep the first day. The second day, I'm like, oh, I get it. Supply lines. Yes. But the whole argument is if we invest more in longer range airplanes, long range bombers that can fly safely from the United States to our enemy, drop the bomb, fly safely back, then we're going to have a huge advantage over the enemy who has airplanes that are shorter range.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's basically the whole argument is let's invest in long-range bombers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is something old Walt felt very passionate about.
Very strongly about.
And it's interesting to me that they released this to the public. It seemed, but I guess they wanted the public to realize this and say, hey, let's do this.
Write your congressman.
When you have public opinion, you have power.
And we've got to remember in World War II, everybody knew someone who was over fighting.
Oh, yeah.
People had family members, loved ones, and so they cared deeply about this war.
Yeah.
It's not like today where you have professionals who sign up and sometimes you don't necessarily know someone you're close to.
And
who's over
drones.
fighting, and they've been trained really, and this is their career that they're doing this.
Exactly.
No, back in the day, you have like
A draft.
teachers and engineers and everyone else who was drafted. And so people cared really deeply about how we were going to win this thing quickly.
Yeah.
And long-range bombers, apparently the answer.
I liked it. Now, as far as a movie goes, though, I feel this movie was not terribly enjoyable. The first half, I thought was great. I give the first half an easy 9 out of 10. It was just
Really?
funny. I loved learning about the Wright brothers. They had, little gags here and there and airplanes crashing, and they did a really cute Disney feel of explaining aviation. Loved it. The second half, when it cut to this Russian in like studio telling us what needed to be done in the war, it just, I don't know, it got too detailed. It was too long.
War strategy is not for everyone.
Well,
Jay.
and it almost felt like he was begging. He was pandering. He was.
Maybe he was.
I think he was. I think it was a begging thing.
It's like, please, let's do this. Make the Air Force independent. Let's invest in long-range bombers.
Yeah.
Or let's make really destructive bombs as soon as possible.
Okay, so let's cut to the cheese here, Miss Andrea.
Yes.
Some Joe Schmo is walking up on the street going, hey, I got a hot date tonight and I want to watch a movie. You would not recommend this.
I would not say, Joe Schmo, you should take your date Betty Lou to go see Victory Through Air Power. It's not really a feel-good rom-com.
No.
If, however, you are interested in war strategy, and honestly, I saw a lot of parallels to what came afterwards. Developing the A-bomb, developing intercontinental ballistic missiles that you could just fire straight into your enemy and not even send human beings in there, to how a lot of people fight wars today, which is air power and drones.
Yeah.
I mean, you still have some ground troops, but honestly, I mean, you could use nukes and air power and drones and not even send human beings into a war zone.
That's exactly right.
And I kind of saw that parallel that, yeah, we invested in that, and now that's how we fight wars.
It's true.
And then I started thinking about,
So it is prolific.
oh, yeah. I mean, it's solid strategy, and it ended up working in that it ended the war sooner, in Japan at least. I mean, we can all agree that Hiroshima and Nagasaki were truly devastating. I mean, they're really terrible. But the argument also goes that it ended up saving lives because it was so devastating from those two bombs that the Japanese, who otherwise would have fought for years and years and years, surrendered.
Yeah.
So yeah, the strategy that this guy is proposing was directly used in that case, and it ended the war.
Funny, the last scene seemed like a 4-minute montage of U.S. military dropping bombs left and right all over Japan.
It was a long scene where it was animated, but they're dropping bombs, and it was quite graphic.
Yeah, and well, when the bombs went off, it almost felt like a Batman kapowie and zap, but it was definitely Japanese businesses, Japanese warehouses and what's the right word?
Cut to this eagle fighting an octopus,
For
and
some
the
reason.
eagle comes and lands on an
Dun-dun-dun-dun,
American flag, and they zoom out,
dun-dun-dun-dun.
and the end, and you're like, yeah, America, and then you think about all the destruction
that really happened.
Yeah.
But one thing that I felt was a little off-putting, and it could be because we're watching this in 2019, and this came out in 43. Mm-hmm. The wild use of the word unmolested. It just hit my ear like, excuse me? That's a good thing. You want that thing unmolested.
No, I think they meant it as a good thing. Like, supply lines were going through and no one was bothering the supply lines.
But then the German U-boats easily went through this unmolested. And you're like, huh.
Maybe we should have molested some U-boats.
Yeah, maybe we should have. Anyway, shall we move forward?
Yes.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn. Moral number 1. And the moral of today's story is...
We can achieve victory through air power.
Wow. That was okay. To be fair, I set this one up and you just knocked it down. I think that is the most obvious and true answer, that there is victory through air power.
I mean, yeah, some of the stuff was pretty dense and put Jay to sleep and put me to sleep the first round.
Yes.
But the moral is in the title.
It is
I
true.
mean, this is obviously this guy trying to get his point across. It might be propaganda. There was definitely some propaganda at the end there with the eagle and the American flag and USA, USA chanting in the background.
Yeah.
But the whole point that they were trying to get across is invest in air power. This is the future of warfare. And they were kind of right based on what has come afterwards.
So do you feel Walt Disney was right in making this movie?
That is a tough question. Did Walt Disney get out of his lane, which is delightful animated features, in order to make this movie? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. This was not what people expected when they see Disney feature.
But
was he right to make it? I don't
history
know.
kind of says yes. I mean, if this film had any influence on the decisions and the public opinion that led to the decisions for the war,
which Roosevelt and Winston Churchill saw this, and arguably it influenced how they fought the war. So do you think this had an influence on how the war turned out?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean, do you think Harry Truman saw this movie, and so when he was making the decision to drop the bomb on Japan, he thought about this?
It's possible.
And we don't know.
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say.
But then it's also, what powers do movies have over, our culture and our thinking? And then we get into this whole other thing of violence, and I don't know.
Right. And if normal Americans saw this, then maybe they were strangely okay with the big bomb and all the stuff that came afterwards.
This is a twisted one.
I know.
I didn't know what I was getting into when I first watched it.
I mean, this is something you got to think about, even if you're a creative animator like Walt Disney. The powers
that you can
when you put
of
something, when you put something out into the world, you have no idea what ripples and what things it will affect down the road.
Walt had a pretty good idea of what ripples he wanted to happen.
Right. He knew directly what he wanted to influence, but there's no way Walt could have foreseen the A-bomb and ICBMs and nukes. Everybody has nukes, and like how warfare has gone since then. There's no way he could have foreseen that.
But what was, and it almost feels like shooting fish in a barrel, because everybody knew somebody that was over there, like you said.
Right.
And Walt releases this movie on news updates on where people are in the war, or by people I mean countries, and what they're doing, as well as how we can win this because we're so great.
Yeah.
And that lifted the spirits of Americans.
You could argue.
Yes, I would want to see that in the theater, because I don't have internet or, news, or, I would definitely see that. Yeah. And I would definitely agree.
And you could argue that these ideas were already out there. He just made them accessible to everyone. And so isn't more information a good thing?
It's true.
We don't know.
I'll stand behind it. Like, I know it was a little controversial. I know seeing Disney draw swastikas.
There were a lot of swastikas in it.
Battles and ultimately very deadly fighting.
Yeah.
Was a little unsettling. But in the year 2019, watching this, I really kind of got a lot out of it. And you can see media, through that lens, really, and understand where mindsets were and what fears were and things that we take for granted now.
I really felt the fear of that time period. Like, they'd show these giant maps that were almost all red. That was Nazi occupied territory. And like, you couldn't help but look at that and like feel this just, clenching in your heart. You're like, oh, we got to do something about that.
Yeah.
So I get it. I mean, just watching this, you kind of get how they felt back then, and we got to do something. What should we do?
That's right. Oh, and we did look at the budget and the income, and I guess Walt himself financed this from his personal account. And turns out that his original distributor took a look at it and said, no, we're not putting this out. And then for the one and only time, a different distributor released a Disney film.
Yeah.
But
it was this one. Yeah.
This did break even. I think he even made $5,000.
That's good. Poor Disney. He needs a win.
Yeah, he does. Okay, so final thoughts, Miss Andrea.
Victory through air power. I feel smarter. I know more about war strategy should I ever be called upon to lend my knowledge to anything in particular. Maybe a nice game of chess or something. There are no airplanes in chess.
No. War Groove.
I would not recommend this to the casual viewer. Don't show this to your children.
No, this is not a kid show.
Don't do that.
Maybe the airplane.
Maybe the history of flight, but cut it off before the let's bomb Japan scene. But really, if you're interested in strategy, if you want to see the through line of how air power became the superior military force going forward, this is probably a good link in that chain for
That's
you.
true.
What do you think, Jay?
You know, I do appreciate this. I think it's actually really effectively done. It was funny to see a Russian narrator, but he's the guy who wrote the book.
And I trusted him.
I
you know?
did.
He seemed trustworthy
and knowledgeable.
Yeah.
But the one thing, again, everybody freaks out when they hear Bambi and he's shooting of the mom. Well, the real terror is the 4-minute clip of bombing Japan.
Oh my God.
That was terrible. But
war is ugly, people.
war is ugly.
That's really what we want you to take away from this.
That's right. But with that brings the end of our show.
Thanks for listening.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you. Next time is, I think, I could be wrong, but I think it is the most controversial Disney movie.
Oh, no.
It's not. What is next? Oh,
The Three Caballeros.
yes. Thank goodness. We'll get popcorn and we'll have just maybe chips and salsa.
This is a follow-up to Saludos Amigos. It was made because Saludos Amigos was so popular. So, Three Calaberos next time.
Oh.
Calabreros. We'll figure out how to say that.
Anyway, I just found this out. In our description, there is a link for you listeners to leave voice messages.
Ooh.
Click it. Leave us a message. I just want to see this thing work. This is cool. Anyway, until next time.
I'm Andrea.
I'm Jay. Have a great day.